Everyone at the club extends our sympathies to the Scanlon family on the sad passing of bitter red supporter Allan Scanlon Cranmore, who sadly passed away this week. Allan travelled all over Ireland following the club and was a popular figure among supporters. So that was statement from Sligo Rovers. So my father was a Sligo Rovers supporter, and he passed away just before Christmas from COVID-related problems. Also, Margaret, his wife, passed away as well. So obviously it's a sad time, but thank you to Sligo Rovers for that statement. So as they said, my dad was a Sligo Rovers supporter, and even though he'd lived in the UK, lived in England for 25 years, he never moved from that. And actually that had an impact on my life as well. So because, can you believe it, even though he loved football in England, he never went to watch football. Can you believe that? So and if he saw a game on, he'd always be saying, oh, not it, he was like, they got nothing on Stanley Matthews and all this kind of stuff. So actually, he never took my brother or I to any games in England. When we moved to Ireland, we went to all the games. He took us to all the Sligo Rovers games, but he'd never taken us to any games in England. So things like that can, they have a big impact on your life. So you often hear people talk about how their parents took them to a game back in the 70s and that's how they got into it. But there's also a large part of the football base who never went to any games, sometimes through choice, but also because they didn't have any choice. They were poor, or they lived in the wrong part of the country. Their parents didn't want them to go. There are all these things that influence how you follow a football team and follow the game. So because of that, basically I relied on scraps from TV. And you got to remember, back in the day, in the late 60s, early 70s, there wasn't any internet. There wasn't 24-hour TV. There wasn't a plethora of TV channels. You had 3 or 4 TV channels that would start. I forget what time did they start in the morning, and usually it would be something in the morning, it'd be some educational stuff, and then they'd close down at 11:30 or something in the evening. And if you were a kid as well, you couldn't stay up late. So you'd be relying on Sam Leach on a football preview on a Saturday afternoon, just for a glimpse of football. So I remember my first bit of football was a Manchester derby in black and white on a rented TV at the end of the 60s. And it was really difficult to distinguish between Man City and Man United. But because of that game, I was sat on my dad's lap. And I'm sure George Best was playing in that game. But I just, for some reason or other, I think it might have been just the lightest shade of the blue pushed me towards City. And from there on in, I've always supported City, always been in love with City. So actually, even though I lived in Cheltenham, I'm not sure I even knew about my hometown team until the 70s. And I think an uncle might have taken me to a game in the mid 70s. But actually, it wasn't until the 80s, when I returned from Ireland, that I actually got into following Cheltenham. So Jace, how about how you got into football?
Well, first of all, I just want to sort of give my deepest condolences to you and you, Kiko. And my heart goes out to you, mate. It must have been a real tough time.
Yeah, thanks.
We've had conversations outside of this, so I won't go into any further detail. But yeah, tough time for you, mate. And big love to you, mate.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, how did I get into football? Wow. Yeah, like yourself, my mother hated football. My dad hated football. My dad would have hated football, despite being born in Liverpool. He was actually brought up in North Wales, so that's why he hated football, probably. Although if you asked him, he'd probably tell you he was a Wrexham fan. Not that he would ever have ever seen Wrexham play football, but there we go. So I never went to a game. I never went to a game until I think it was 1977. I was 10, and I think my cousin's husband, Andrew, took me to see Bristol City against Ipswich Town at Ashton Gate. That was the first big game I ever went to. I remember, I think Paul Mariner was playing. I'm pretty sure he was playing. And funnily enough, years later, it's a different story. I won't go off on a tangent, but I actually played against, well, you played against them as well, the Bristol City side that I watched that day, although they were a lot older when we played them.
Yeah.
And the first game I ever went to actually was Tranmere Rovers against Chesterfield at Prenton Park back in the old Division 4 in the same year. Again, it was my cousin Andrew that took me when I went to visit them up there.
Yeah.
He took me on a Friday night, and I still remember that game. I remember that game probably more clearly than I do the last time I went to see Cheltenham Town, to be fair. Ronnie Moore opened the scoring for Tranmere, and then Eddie Flood, left back for Tranmere, put through his own net to equalise for Chesterfield, and it ended up being 1-1. And for a long while, I took a big interest in Tranmere Rovers, but my sort of first love, I suppose, was Liverpool, because of my family connections with Liverpool. You were either Liverpool or you weren't. It wasn't like you were either Liverpool or you're Everton. It was you're Liverpool or you're nothing kind of thing. Apart from my other cousin, who was West Brom, I don't quite know how that fitted in, but he was West Brom through and through. And then what happened then? And then I went with a mate to see Cheltenham Town, a mate and his dad, to see Cheltenham Town at Barnet again in 77. Jimmy Greaves was playing for Barnet, believe it or not. And funnily enough, Barnet was where I met you, even though we were working in the same office in Cheltenham, which is just bizarre, isn't it? We didn't actually speak until we stood on that terrace at Underhill, which is quite weird. But so and then after that, my love for Cheltenham Town just, it's my hometown club, as you know, and my love for Cheltenham Town kind of superseded anything else, and still does. Although I still have a pool, as you know. But it's if Liverpool were playing Cheltenham, I'd be in the Cheltenham end all day long. So, which is on my bucket list. Every time there's a cup draw and both teams are in that hat, I'm praying for them to pull out Liverpool, home or away. That'd do me.
Well,
but we got Man City, so it was close.
Yeah, well, for me, that would have been the dream game, wouldn't it? I mean, unfortunately, no fans were allowed. I'm not sure finances or my schedule would have allowed it, but maybe I would have been able to get back for that if it hadn't been for the pandemic.
There were fans in that day. There weren't many, but there were some there.
Yeah. So, my first game. So I'm not sure. I have a flash of, I think my uncle who lived in Cheltenham, and then he took my aunt to Ipswich. They now live in Australia, but I think he took us to a Cheltenham game in the early mid-70s, but I can't remember very well. And then when they lived in Ipswich, we used to go up. I think I told you before, we used to go up there on the coach, 7 bloody long hours on the coach. those were the days before the bypasses. You know, you'd go on the old road.
Yeah.
And you'd change at Victoria.
Yeah.
Change at Victoria. So yeah, so I remember he told us to pick a weekend when Ipswich were playing at home, but we had no way of knowing when they were playing at home. So anyway, and those were the days, you know, even phone. A lot of people, we didn't have a phone, for example. So, you know, those were the days when, if you, not for everybody, of course, but for a lot of people, if you wanted to communicate with somebody, you had to write a bloody letter. a completely different world. So,
I had a similar conversation with Mark about this, and he's looking at me like I've like grown 3 heads or something.
Right, yeah,
talking about you couldn't communicate. Yeah. What do you mean you couldn't communicate? What? Well, we couldn't communicate.
Well, you know, I mean, even, you know, where I lived on the corner of Orchard Way and Prince Elizabeth Way in Cheltenham. You know, just to go, if you wanted to go to the football game in those days, if your family didn't have a car and you had no money, I mean, that might as well have been Wembley. You know, I mean, the same time. So people have no comprehension, you know.
No.
So anyway, we picked the wrong weekend, of course. So we ended up watching a football combination game between Ipswich and Arsenal, or Ipswich and West Ham. I can't remember which. Empty stadium, Portman Road, and a 0-0 draw. It was bloody terror. Also, I don't know where. Oh, you have been to Ipswich, I know. And in the bloody winter time, not just the winter time, it's bloody cold in Ipswich, I can tell you.
Yeah.
And then I lived across the road from the church, St. Thomas More's Church, and they had a Catholic club at the back of the clubs, a social club. So, and of course, there were a lot of Irish people. It was mostly Irish people there. So in 1975, Allan played at Wembley. And so they booked a coach to go up, and my mother scraped together the money, and I went up on the coach. Might have been an Old Marchants, I can't remember, or Swansbrook, or one of those companies. And
black and white, mate. Black and white. That's what it would have been.
No, it wasn't. It was a chartered.
Swanbrook, was it? Swanbrook, I bet.
And no, you know, again, no toilets on those old things, you know, smoking, vibrating windows. And of course, they had crates of beer in the back. And even though I was only, how old was I then? I must have been 10 or 11. And they were letting me drink the bottles of beer. So, and of course, all that beer, you needed to go out the back a lot, only there isn't any back on the coach. So I remember on the way back from London, the coach stopping some embankment and everybody running down the bank.
It used to be a common sight.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember going to an away game on a Marchants coach once. And there were no. I had a travel ticket, but there were no seats left on the coach.
Yeah.
And I remember, I think Ginge was on that coach as well. And I remember them saying to me, "That's all right. You can sit on the crate." So there I am, sat on the crate of beer, right in the aisle, in between the seats up the back.
Yeah.
You can imagine, can't you? I didn't sit down a lot, right, because everybody was going to the crate every 2 bloody minutes, right? Yeah, there we are. Those are the days.
Yeah. Also, I went to see
Eric Goddard on the same coach.
Yeah, also I went to see Villa play at Villa Park. I can't remember who I went with, so I saw Villa play, and then I moved to Ireland. But when I went to Ireland, we first went to Limerick. So and they used to play a ground called the Market Fields. But I remember the joy of just going, even though I was still a kid in Ireland, it didn't make much difference. You could still go into the pub before the game. So you go into the pub before the game and after the game, of course. Can't remember what happened in the middle. I don't think much happened in the middle at half time. Yeah, I think I saw Sligo play at the Market Fields in Limerick. But we were only in Limerick for 6 months. So I saw Limerick play a few times, I think. I also went up to Dublin to see Sligo play in a couple of cup finals. One of which I was talking about the other week on on Twitter. They lost both. So actually it was the curse. It was like in baseball, you know, the Red Sox had the curse.
Yeah.
And it was a bit like that for decades and decades. Sligo couldn't win the FAI Cup. I saw them play in 2 cup finals. They lost both, one of them very controversially. And then the season they won it, can you believe it? I came back. So I might have seen them play the first round or 2, and then I came back to England. So the season in which I came back to England, they won it, but not after a momentous, incredible semi-final. I think there were 2 or 3 replays. They played Cove Ramblers, who Roy Keane joined Forest from.
Yeah, he did.
They were, but they were an Irish non-league team at that time, believe it or not, and they were in the semi-final of the FAI Cup, and they were winning.
Is that Cove as in COBH?
Correct.
Yeah.
I don't know what it means in Irish, but in the anglicised name, I think it was Queenstown. So it's like Derry. The anglicised form is Londonderry. I think Dunleary is Kingstown. I might have got those the wrong way around. Yes.
So would you say that you've got like an infinity with Sligo, as in like your, I don't know, 3rd team or something like that?
Yeah. Well, I don't think of them as a 3rd team. I just think of them as the team, my Irish team. Yeah, I don't think of them as the 3rd team.
So they're your favourite team in Ireland, then, basically.
Yeah. So
I've got, like me, I've got Stirling Albion in Scotland, and that's my number 1 team in Scotland.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, because I lived there. You know, I lived in Sligo for 5 years. I went to a lot of games, and they were actually losing in the semi-final, and some guy who wasn't one of their best ever players, but he scored a late equaliser in the semi-final. They finally managed to get through that semi-final. They played in the final. They were losing in the final, and then they managed to turn the game around to win it.
Well, the 2 guys that have invited me over to Derry for the Irish Open.
Yeah,
they're obviously big Derry fans. But
yeah, you were telling me. Yeah,
I don't mention Sligo.
I don't know. To be honest, I haven't lived in Sligo for a long time, so I don't know what the rivalry's like there. I think I was telling you about the time. Did I tell you? I might have been on Twitter. So, but my late father, my brother, they were telling me about the time I think it was my brother was telling me they went up. So my brother was living in Sligo at the time, so they went up to Derry for a game.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it was on a Sunday afternoon, because all the games used to be on Sunday afternoons. I think now they stagger them for TV reasons. But they went up to the game as you do, especially in my family. You go for a beer before the game. So they were in the pub in Derry just before the game. And my dad played the harmonica and used to bring it with him everywhere, any excuse, and he'd get it out. So anyway, he gets the harmonica out in the pub before the game.
Yeah.
And suddenly all the pints of Guinness were being lined up on the table, and they couldn't get away. My brother was telling me they couldn't get away, and they only got to the ground at half time to see the game.
Brilliant. I love shit like that.
Yeah, so watching Sligo, and then after coming back to England, then I started. I always loved Man City, so I remember the 81 Cup final, Ricky Villa and all that. Everybody talks about the Ricky Villa goal, but I always think the Steve McKenzie goal was one of the greatest FA Cup final goals myself.
Yeah, didn't that was a replay, wasn't it? It was a
Yeah,
replay.
the replay.
Yeah. Who scored in the first one? Was it Mackenzie?
The first City goal.
The first game.
The first game, Tommy Hutchinson,
That's
the
it.
header,
Tommy Hutchinson.
and
Yeah,
then
Tommy Hutchinson.
the deflection off his shoulder from the free kick for the equaliser.
Was it Hutchinson own goal? Was it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, off the wall. He broke away from the wall, so he was in the wall, and then he broke away from the wall to try and cover the shot, and it deflected off his shoulder.
I remember watching him score the header and thinking that was old man Steptoe.
Yeah, but what had happened is Malcolm Allison had come. So City had been a force at the end of the 70s, but you got to remember Peter Swales was the chairman.
Oh, God.
And he used to flash money around like nobody's business. So he brought City had finished second. Was it 77? They finished second to Liverpool. It was only by a point or something. And then Tony Book had been the manager, and then what he decided to do was bring back Big Malcolm Allison, to try and but there was no Joe Mercer. So Malcolm Allison did away with all the old guard, people like Peter Barnes, Gary Owen, all these guys. And he just spent a load of money on young hopefuls. And they weren't getting the results. They were playing nice football, but maybe they had defensive frailties. They were inexperienced. And then he got the boot. Was it 80? He got the boot. And then John Bond came in. And he decided they needed a bit of that experience. So he brought in, by this time, Tommy Hutchinson had seen his better days at Coventry. He brought in Jerry Gow from Bristol City, Bobby McDonald. And suddenly, City were whopping everybody. So, and they got to the final of that FA Cup final. Also, they beat Everton in the quarter final. That was a fantastic quarter final. After a replay, then they beat Ipswich in the semi-final at was it at Goodison? That was Villa Park, and that was a fantastic game. And then, of course, they got beat by Tottenham. Yeah, so when I came back to England, then I think the Sligo influence, even though I was living in Worcester initially, I immediately set about following Cheltenham. So, but, I still followed City, of course. Okay, so we haven't done one of these tube casts for a while, Jay. So let's just catch up with what's happening in the FA competitions. So FA Cup, so third round's already taken place. So I think Saturday week will be the fourth round. But in the FA Vase and the FA Trophy, they're already on to the fifth round. So I was just looking at the teams in the hat before yesterday's draw. So I haven't looked at the draw yet, but I'm going to do that now. So believe it or not, because we were talking about them way back in, I can't remember, August or September. Anstey Nomads are still in it. Can you believe it or not? So so they are going to play. So that's in the FA Vase. So they got a home tie against. So no, they got first get past Wroxham. If they can get past Wroxham, they will then play Wythenshawe. So that's in the FA Vase.
Anstey Nomad, Cropston Road, founded 1946.
And if we look at the trophy, so Halifax. I think did we end up following them? Halifax have got a home tie against Notts County.
Yeah, they're going great, Halifax.
Are they? So your man used to play for Cheltenham, Billy Waters plays for them, doesn't he?
He does.
Yeah.
Getting bagfuls of goals as well.
Yeah, really, yeah. Yeah, as I said, when we went to watch them went to watch Cheltenham play 5 or 6 years ago. My wife liked him. He scored the winning.
Yeah, I remember you saying. I remember you saying. Yeah.
Okay, and so let's have a look what happened in Premier League the weekend then, Jace. So, any thoughts on the Premier League action over the weekend?
I've fallen a little bit out of love with the Premier League at the moment because some of the blooming refereeing is just atrocious. It really is, and I don't know whether it's because the referees are under pressure because of VAR, or whether the referees are being controlled in terms of. I mean, every time they are sent to the monitor, you know they are going to change their minds, right? I've never seen one referee go up to a monitor and say, I'm still giving it the other way. You know, it's like who's reffing it? Are the refs reffing it, or is VAR reffing it? Because, you know, for me, I know a lot's been said about VAR, but it's ruining it. It's absolutely ruining it because it's not being used correctly. And
I don't think that's VAR. I think that's the people who are using it. I think.
Well, that's what I mean. It's not being used correctly. That's what I mean.
I think VAR is showing up how spineless a lot of referees are. So Keith Hackett was saying in the City game against Arsenal. I know there was a lot of controversy about some of those decisions, but he was saying for that penalty, the Bernardo Silva penalty, that in his opinion, I'm not saying he's correct, but in Keith Hackett's opinion, because of the leg, I think Silva went down easily myself, but Xhaka had the leg, his thigh outstretched, and Silva didn't need the second invitation to go over it. But also, Xhaka was actually clearly pulling Silva's shirt, and according in Keith Hackett's opinion, that was enough to warrant a penalty in his opinion. And he was saying the ref, who was the ref? Was it Atwell or Pawson? I can't remember who the ref was.
But I know he had an absolute shocker for both teams. He really did for both teams. He was just awful.
But hold on. So, but what Keith Hackett, the point I wanted to make was, what Keith Hackett was saying, the ref, whoever it was, didn't have the spine to make a decision himself. He was relying on the guy in the VAR room to help him out because he didn't have the balls.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem with a lot of those refs. They don't have the balls. That it's what I call career refereeing. They're more worried about their career and getting the next game than just making the correct decision. It's the wrong way round. It's like if you play good football in the long term, you will get the results, even though there might be blips along the way. It's the same in refereeing. You make good, strong decisions. You will get allocated another game in the future. But if you're just doing everything according to what you think will help your career along the way, you're going to get bad refereeing performances. Go on. Yeah, sorry about that.
No, you're absolutely right. But I also think there's an element of you say that they haven't got the balls, but I think yes, you're right. You're 100% right. But I think there's also an element of that VAR has taken over so much that even if they did have the balls, they'd still be worried about making a decision which VAR doesn't agree with, and therefore they then get that highlighted, and next week they're reffing a League One match kind of thing, right? I think there's an element of that as well. And I think something's got to be done about it. And the fact that they use VAR in the FA Cup when Premier League teams are playing at home, but they don't use it in all the other ties.
Yeah.
Why? That for me, that just blows my mind, because Hull City were denied two absolute bang-on certainties that would have been given by VAR, right? They ended up going out of the competition.
Yeah.
They went out of the competition, and yet very similar in, I can't remember who it was, but very similar incidents happened with two Premier League sides in the FA Cup.
Yeah.
VAR intervened and sorted it all out.
Yeah.
You know, if you can't have it across the board, don't have it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I'm sure. But the reason they don't have it across the board is because of finance and logistics.
100%, 100%. But if you know what I'm saying is, if the Premier League teams want to play in the FA Cup, on the level playing field with all the others, then they shouldn't have VAR for the FA Cup.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's got to be the same for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
And okay, so City have stolen a march. You said they would. I remember at the beginning of the seasons when I was saying, "Oh, they haven't started very well." So I've been hearing people saying they've got a bigger squad or they've got a better quality squad, more expensive squad, all this kind of stuff. So. Is that true, Jace? Because I'm going to argue something different in a minute.
Well, I mean, even if they have got a more expensive squad, it doesn't guarantee that it's going to be a better squad. But obviously, what they're doing is the right thing, and you know, we love him or hate him. Pep's a good manager. And I think he gets the best out of players. I got to say, I hate to say it, but I do say it. Probably more so of late than maybe Klopp does, and maybe even the geezer at Chelsea. What's his name? I can't think of his name.
Tuchel. I'm not sure how you pronounce it.
Tuchel. Yeah, I mean, both Klopp and Tuchel are exceptional managers, but I think at the moment in the 3-horse race, if it is a 3-horse race, Pep seems to have the strength. He seems to have that better man management. Maybe he seems to, you know, when he gets his fringe players coming in, they seem to perform just as well as the rest. I mean, for me, you know, Nathan Ake has been an absolute revelation for Man City. You know, but you also think that maybe next week he's not going to be playing, sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? Whereas obviously when Liverpool have been hit with suspensions and COVID and all the rest of it, they brought their like second string in, and they haven't quite come up to that kind of level. They've done all right, but they haven't come up to that kind of level. And I think at the moment, I think Chelsea are just a little bit. I don't know what's up with them. They're a little bit disjointed. I don't know why that is.
Well, personally, they paid all that. Alan Shearer was saying, I think, you know, they brought Lukaku. Well, that's it. You know, that's the title sealed. But from what I've seen, Lukaku is exactly the same player he was when he was at Man United, and why they let him go. I mean, he did well. He did well for Inter, but it's a different league, or maybe just the coach did. I mean, I think it was Conte. So maybe the manager knew how to use him better. So, but you know, it's like that argument. You know, you shouldn't try doing the same thing and expect to get different results. I mean, I think it's similar to Lukaku. I think he's exactly the same player he was before. He hasn't changed. Yeah.
I mean, Liverpool. I think Liverpool, for me, they've lost the title. They lost it at West Ham. After that, they were not the same. After that, I mean, they're not out of it, I guess, by any means. I mean, they've still got to play Man City again, haven't they?
Yeah, I don't think it's over. I remember City when they won that title in 2012. You know, and I think Liverpool have got a game in hand as well.
They've got a game in hand. They've got to play City as well. So it's not
2012.
It's not over, but it's gonna be a big ask. You know, for Man City to go on a significant. They might lose the odd one, and they might lose against Liverpool. But I can't I can't see them, going on a losing streak, if you know what I mean, with Liverpool then still having to maintain winning every game.
Yeah, I forget. I've lost my train of thought on that one. So, yeah, what I was going to say was, of course, City have got a lot of resources, but there's also a football element in it, but there's very little recognition in the media about what a good coach, what the football, a lot of the football is down, not just buying good players, is also down to good coaching. So,
well, yeah, but I would also argue that in as much as, for example, right, I'm going to agree with you in as much as Pep's a great coach, right? But is he only a great coach with what he's got in front of him? If he went to say, if you picked him out of Man City now,
yeah,
and you stuck him in the Newcastle,
yeah,
what you've got, with what he would have to play with at Newcastle,
yeah,
would Newcastle survive? Right now, if the argument about Pep being a great coach is he's a great coach, full stop, then you could get him to get Newcastle to survive with what they've got now.
Oh yeah. I'm not saying I don't know. I don't know how he would do, but I certainly think they would be playing differently to what they play at the moment. I suspect they would play better football. I'm not saying they would survive, but I suspect they would play exactly the same way, or he would try to play the way City are playing now.
Yeah, I think the point I'm trying to make is that we've never really seen Pep manage a team that isn't full of really expensive players.
Okay, so let's say he's a great coach of great players or good players. Whether he's a great coach of not so good players is we don't know.
No,
but I think if he's given the resources, he's a very good coach. I'm not going to say he's a great coach of mediocre places. I don't know. Although, I mean, when he was Barcelona B, it was Barcelona B, but I think the reason he got the Barcelona job in the first place was because he'd done a good job with the B team. So,
yeah, right.
So, yeah, we don't know. But personally, I'm not one of those who believes he has to go and manage Halifax, do a good job at Halifax before he can get a job anywhere else. I just don't believe that. All I care
on the flip side of that, though, what if somebody else came into Man City with what's there? So say, like, for example, let's flip it on its head, and let's say if Eddie Howe, for example, went to Man City with the resources that are there, would they still win the league?
They wouldn't replicate what Guardiola's doing, in my opinion.
I'm not saying they'd replicate it because he's a different class of coach, but would they still win the league?
I'm not convinced they would myself. No, I don't think. I'm not convinced he would.
It's interesting, isn't it?
I think also Pep buys those players. He says he doesn't have any influence in it. I'm not sure about that myself. But I think he also buys players to fit what the kind of football he wants to play. So, and also some of those players wouldn't have joined if he hadn't been manager and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, true.
But I also think the style of football he plays enables him, the qualities that enables him to be able to change. He rotates a lot. Yeah. He's able to rotate, but he's played players like Cole Palmer's played, who's from the academy. I know Klopp plays a lot of youngsters too. Well, Pep doesn't play a lot of youngsters, let's face it, but he also rotates a lot. He rotates the players a lot. It keeps things competitive. But I think also the style, all the players, they know what they're trying to achieve. So they play in a kind of a system. And also, if you look at the depth of squad, actually, City have got a smaller group of select players to choose from than some of the other clubs. So that Chelsea bench on Saturday, I think, was valued at 300 million quid. which was significantly more than the bench that City had. So, if you notice, when people say they've got a bigger squad or a better quality squad, they leave those comments there. But if you then ask them to compare the squads, they won't do that. So a lot of that is just talk shite, basically.
Talk's cheap, isn't it, mate?
Okay, so let's skip the championship. Sorry about that. And there I was. There I was waiting for it on the Vidi print. I was looking at it on the Vidi printer because I was thinking, don't let there be a late goal. Don't let there be a late goal. And I was looking up, I couldn't see any late goal. And then by accident, I just happened to see. I thought, no, that's not the full-time score. There's been a goal. And it was bloody Cheltenham equaliser. Another late goal conceded, Jace. This is a worrying pattern.
Do you want me to put my 2 penneth worth in for that? I don't know if you saw any of the. Did you see any of the? Did you see any of the sort of reports or anything like that?
I didn't really know. To be honest, I couldn't face it. To be honest.
So every time we play and I'm going to go like this, big team, right? Yeah. I lose my shit on Twitter every single time because their fans afterwards, they've got this bloody entitlement thing going on.
Yeah.
And it's like the amount of times I read, oh, what, we can't even beat tin pot Cheltenham, blah, 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 right? And it's like little old Cheltenham, for fuck's sake, excuse my French, and all this kind of stuff, right? I hate it. And the reason I hate it is because those so-called big-time Charlies are in the same division as us, right? And we're there the same as they are on merit.
Yeah,
right?
That's both teams level.
Yeah, we're there because we're too good for League Two. They're there because they're not good enough for the bloody Championship. Yeah, and that's my little rant there.
Yeah.
Because it drives me mad. Now, apparently what happened on Saturday was Cheltenham were all over Cheltenham in the first half, apparently, and missed a hatful of chances. A hatful. You don't take your chances, you're going to rue it later in the game, right? Now, what happened was that some bloody, brain of Britain Cheltenham fan, and let's face it, there are a few of them, right?
Yeah.
Let off a flare in the 93rd minute to celebrate our 1-0 win over Cheltenham Athletic, right? Game gets stopped for a bit. What do you get? You get your injury time. You know that the minute you let off a flare to celebrate, you're not going to be celebrating for very long, right? You just know it. It's like the old, if Telford don't equalise in the next 30 seconds, Cheltenham will be away to so-and-so, and you know that Telford are going to go up the other end and score. Do you remember that game, right?
Yeah.
What? Hell, seriously, I mean, it's like, why are they doing this? And then our stewards are embarrassing, and they all need sacking. If any one of those stewards has got an SIA license, I'm going to eat my own SIA license. Seriously, they are a joke. Every single time we play a big team, we have a pitch invasion at the end of it, right? It's absolutely ridiculous. It is ridiculous. Somebody is going to get seriously hurt. And why Cheltenham aren't getting fined for allowing these pitch invasions, I do not know. But if you'd seen the footage of Cheltenham Athletic fans celebrating their equaliser, you thought they won the bloody European Cup against little tin pot Cheltenham, right? And it just, I was livid. If I'd have had a cat, the RSPCA would have been called on Saturday, I'm telling you, right? That I was absolutely, because I knew, I was sitting there shouting at the television before the result came in. I was thinking, for God's sake, Cheltenham, if you let in a bloody goal in the 90-plus minute, right, I'm going to go mad. And when I saw on Twitter that in the 93rd minute before the 94th minute equaliser, of which there was no time to take the kickoff afterwards, by the way, right? In the 93rd minute, they're taking off a striker and putting on a striker. What are you doing, Michael Duff? What are you doing? Seriously, why are you doing this, right? You're 1-0 up, you want the points. You seriously do need the points, right? You take off a striker, you put on an extra defender. It's a no-brainer. It's an absolute no-brainer. Oh, just words fail me, to be fair.
Whatever. Anyway, that's a lot of. We concede a lot of late goals, in my opinion. Anyway,
we do, time and time again, and it is worrying because we're going to be in a dogfight before long.
Okay, this is going to be a curtailed cast today because we started late, and also I got to go to work. So African, was it Cup of Nations? I'm not sure what the correct name is. It. So
African Cup of hysterical refereeing, I think.
Wow.
Did you see that referee? Did you see the referee that blew up too early? He blew too early. Did you see that?
Well, no, I only saw the headlines. So
that was embarrassing. So he blew up 5 minutes to go, right? There's 5 minutes to go, and he blows full time. And I think it was the Tunisian bench were going mental, right? And the ref's like, no, it's over, it's done. And they were going absolutely ballistic. So he then goes off. The fourth official goes over to him and says, "No, you've got it wrong, mate. You've got it wrong. You absolutely got it wrong." So then they restart, right, with 5 minutes to play. He plays 3 minutes and then he blows up again.
Whoa.
So then he goes off. They take the teams off. The other teams are all celebrating because they've won. I think it might have been. Who was it? Was it Gabon or something like that? I don't know. Whatever. They were celebrating this victory over Tunisia or whatever it was. And then I think it was 25 minutes later, they were ordered to replay the remaining 2 or 3 minutes or whatever it was. And the team that had won, I think it was Gabon. I'm not sure. The team that had won. Were refusing to come out, saying like, "No, we've won. That's it. We're not coming out. Sort off. It's your fault," sort of thing. And they were eventually persuaded to come out. They come out. They're warming up. There's no sign of Tunisia, right? And the fourth official was taking over the referee, and there was no sign of the referee either. He was on the highway to wherever, and then Tunisia refused to play. They just refused to play. So that was an absolute farce.
Yeah, so hopefully that ref won't be refereeing any other games in the tournament.
His excuse apparently in the aftermath was that he was suffering from sunstroke.
Okay, let's have a look at league positions. So Premier League 4th, West Ham. It had been Arsenal, but they had a game called off. So West Ham, they had a bit of a blip, but they seem to have rediscovered some form. Although, having said that, they went and lost to Leeds on Sunday, I think it was.
They did indeed, yeah.
Also, I think their second team, or is it the academy team? I can't remember. That are doing well in their league as well. Championship, QPR are in 4th in that. So I don't know who's at QPR these days.
I don't either.
Okay, if we go down to League One, Wigan are in 4th. They've dropped off. I think they were leaders for a while, but they've dropped down to 4th.
Who are they playing next?
Wigan. Sounds like they're playing Cheltenham then.
At Warden Road on Saturday.
The way Cheltenham are playing, home or away, it doesn't seem to make much difference.
Well, we've just bought a bunch of new players. So.
Okay, League 2, Swindon are 4th in League 2. They lost at home to City in the FA Cup.
Yeah.
Cole Palmer, he had a great assist and a great goal in that game, but I think the goal he scored was underrated. I thought it was a fantastic goal. It was a very tight angle. You don't see that very often, but it was almost like Kenny Dalglish-esque, where he made the goal look bigger than what it was. He put it right in the top, in the stanchion almost. He put it in the stanchion. I think
you've got to ask questions of the goalkeeper, though. You shouldn't be beaten from that angle.
Well, they say that, but I thought he hit it firmly. I think that space there is an open space. I think they're underestimating the quality of that and overestimating the ability to or to get to those. Also, National League, 4th place, Notts County. So aren't they the oldest? They were a founder member, of course. So
they were. So were Accrington Stanley.
Actually, when I had talking to Sabudio, I had a Notts County kit when one of my teams was a Notts County. Could it double up as Newcastle or not?
Yeah. Reference number 8.
Well, bloody hell. Yeah, so it was a nice kit. Did it have black bases? I can't remember.
Yeah, black bases, white inserts.
So they are threatening to get back into the Football League. Yeah, so actually, didn't they play that commemorative game a few years ago against Juventus? Because Juventus, I don't know.
Was of Notts County, yeah.
Was the
They borrowed Notts County kit. They borrowed Notts County kit, yeah, and then ended up wearing it as their strip, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, National League North, 4th position, Chorley. I remember going to Chorley back in the day. So when Cheltenham played in the conference, it wasn't the conference in those days. It would have been the Gola League or whatever it was.
I had to paint Chorley for somebody the other day. And guess what colour they play in?
Is it a tangerine or orangey or something?
It's the same as Notts County.
All right. Yeah, it might have been, I'm not sure it's Chorley or Northwich or one of those teams. I think I told you before. I remember changing ends at Wadden Road back in the non-league days. And Cheltenham, I think Mickey Nuttall had scored a screamer, which was a rarity. And Cheltenham were winning 1 or 2-0, might even have been 3-0 at half time. And we were walking round to the other end as you used to be able to do in those days. And some opposing fan had walked past us, and he was talking to his mate, and he was fuming. And he was saying, but Cheltenham are shit, you know. And,
did I say anything? I think I might have done.
Yeah, I'm not sure you were there, and I don't think you heard it.
If I had been, I would have done. You know that.
In National League South, Oxford City, they are 4th in non-league South. Do you remember we signed Steve, that centre forward? Was it Steve Jones, Steve James, Steve Evans? I can't remember his name.
Jenkins.
Steve Jenkins, that's him. But
yeah,
he moved like Frankenstein, to be honest.
Where are Bromley in the conference, by the way?
Yeah, I don't know. Did you choose Bromley or Boreham Wood? I can't remember.
Bromley.
Yeah, they're up there. They could even be leaders.
No, I don't think they're leaders, are they? About 3rd or 4th, aren't they?
Let's have a look.
I really want them to go up.
No, they're 5th. They're 5th. Halifax are leaders, actually. Boreham Wood. Yeah, Boreham Wood are 3rd. Yeah. Okay, and then
concentrate on.
Okay, then let's go down into the Southern League Central Division, and Rushall Olympic 4th in that. That brings back memories of the Pink, the Sports Argus on Saturday nights.
Yeah,
I remember I used to see this. I think they used to be in the same league as Hales Owen. They were always up there. Okay, and then one more foreign league. So Cymru, the Cymru Premier, and Pennybont are in 4th place in the Cymru Premier. Okay, and then to finish, Jace. Any thoughts about let's talk about any thoughts on the football to come this weekend?
To be honest, I don't. Other than Cheltenham playing Wigan, I don't really know who's playing who. To be fair, I've, as you probably can imagine, I've got my mind on other things at the moment. But yeah, I've been trying to avoid thinking about in my forthcoming operation, what we're doing, the panto and everything, that kind of took my mind off it. And now panto is finished. It's like, oh shit, my operation's in about 2 weeks. So yeah, I'm kind of preoccupied. I'm trying to clear up all my orders. I've got about 16 teams to paint or something, but I want to do it before I go into hospital.
As my mother-in-law,
I haven't really thought about football, to be honest.
yeah, as my mother-in-law says, everything has an end. So this
That's supposed to mean.
Well, basically, if there's something that's bad.
Oh, right.
It is bad, but it will come to an end at some point.
Yeah, I'm sure it will.
Okay, and then finally, let's our all-time 11s. I don't think we chose a coach, did we? So we chose our 11s, but we hadn't chosen a coach. So can you remember your 11, your all-time 11? I'll try and remember mine. Neville Southall in goal, Cafu right back, left back was Maldini, centre backs, right-sided Marcel Desailly, left side Beckenbauer, midfield. I had Makelele, George Best on the right, Cruyff on the left, and who did I have? Oh, Maradona. And then up front, I had Messi and Pele. So how about your 11? Can you remember it?
I can't remember, to be honest.
Yeah, did you have Ray Clements in goal?
Yeah.
Ruud Krol somewhere along the back line. Passarella was your right back.
Passarella was my right back.
Allan Hansen
was in there. Yeah, Hansen was in there.
Who was your other centre back? I can't remember. Was it Beckenbauer? I can't remember. And then in midfield, you had like George Best.
Why didn't we write these down?
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's a good point.
We'll have to go back to a previous cast. But anyway, my all-time manager, I suppose. Oh, blimey. It's a tight one for me because it's either going to be Paisley or Dalglish, to be honest. Dalglish was a great coach because not only did he do it at Liverpool, but he did it with Blackburn as well, which is like, yeah, unbelievable. But again, it's that whole, he had the resources kind of thing. He obviously, as a player manager, he won the double, which nobody else has ever done as a player manager.
Yeah.
But I think purely given the fact that, Bob Paisley, well, he could have been your granddad, couldn't he? He was always there in one of them bloody Victor Meldrew coats on the touchline. Looked like he was never ever going to have a conversation with anybody. And you think, how the hell did that guy coach 3 European Cup wins, two UEFA Cup wins, 1 European Cup Winners' Cup win, and something like, I don't know, what was it, 9 titles or something like that? How the hell? Not to mention the League Cups thrown in as well. So I'm going to say Bob Paisley.
Right. Yeah, that's something I've, even with, for example, Klopp or Guardiola. Yeah, they've obviously got great coaching quality, but I think there's something else, like Ferguson as well. There's something else that takes them across the gain line. What is it? What is that? Is it one ingredient or is it different ingredients? What is it that makes the difference between winning so much and not winning so much?
I don't know, man. With Bob Paisley, it's not like he had a playing career which like started a million fires either. I mean, he played for, I think was it Preston he played for, and he wasn't particularly a great player.
Yeah.
And you can't imagine, or I certainly don't ever recall seeing Bob Paisley on a training ground kicking a ball around with the guys.
Yeah.
Whereas Klopp does that. Even Alex Ferguson did that.
Yeah.
All the the modern day greats, if you like, they've all done that.
Yeah.
Whereas Bob Paisley, he was just like one of these guys that you'd be expecting him to be filling in his football pools instead of actually writing notes on the game.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to go for Rinus Michels, the Dutch guy who coached the 74 and 78 World Cup teams.
That's a good shot.
I'm not sure he is the best, but was certainly revolutionary. So
I did think about the obvious, which was Ramsey, because nobody's ever managed to do it with him other than Ramsey. But I mean, even Alf Ramsey, he was in a tracksuit kicking the ball around, even at his age, right?
Yeah.
Bob Paisley was just like in a flasher-mac every single game. He was the guy in the park, right?
Yeah. The thing about Mickles was, though, I'm not an expert on him, but I know a little bit about him. So for example, in the 60s, Dutch football, it was like, it wasn't like top-notch league. It was a part-time league. Can you believe that? The Dutch league in the 60s was a part-time league, and I don't think Ajax were anything like the powerhouse that they became. So within a matter of, he just changed everything completely. I think he'd been managing an amateur team or something, and he firstly made Dutch football, or top-tier football, professional. And within just a few years, he brought part-timers to be European champions playing total football. And that meant that philosophy is still in place today through people like Guardiola. I mean, you can trace Guardiola's philosophy back to Mickles, who passed it on to Cruyff. So, and the way you're playing, it's not like you're fixed defenders, you fixed midfielders, you fixed attackers. Everybody is a defender, everybody is a midfielder, everybody is a striker, kind of thing,
Yeah. Yeah, okay. No, it's a good show. I wouldn't have thought of him, but hey, it's a good show.
Okay, James, I got to go because I got to get changed as well. Okay, so thanks for.
Been good to catch up, mate. So hope the day's not too bad.
Yeah, I've got a busy day today, so let's see what happens. Okay, so speak to you again soon then. Okay.
Mate.
Yeah, cheers.